Hey guys, so lately we have seen a resurgence of the topic of carbon nation. People have been talking about this group again actively because they are in the news, they are on social media, they are posting, actively posting, and a lot of the members have continued to live their best life. And it's just moving on with their lives since Ojelio is now in jail. But I think the most active member who is out there in the forefront is Solar because he hooked up with Jaguar, right? And we saw what happened with that, the big blow up between him, Goomba, and Jaguar. Recently, he appeared on real life productions to tell his side of the story, which included his experience with Jaguar and Goomba as well as the cult. Of course, he painted himself in a positive light to look good, and he exonerated himself from a lot of these negative activities that went on. He said he was in the cult for 4.5 years. Ajelia is sitting in jail. Ajelia is married to Velvet. Now Solar and Velvet are now living together expecting a child. But he made it seem as though he controlled the money in Carbon Nation. Maybe he was responsible for bookings as well as securing places for them to live. Because, from my understanding, they lived in a lot of Airbnbs, some of the best Airbnbs. The layouts were fabulous. However, in terms of him having the money, sole control of the money as like a treasurer, this is what he said he was. He was in control of the money when he did his interview on Real Life Productions. But I cannot imagine Eligio giving him control of the money. I think it was probably more like he was responsible for bookings, and then Eligio probably gave them money for paying those places, for the payment of securing those Airbnbs. But in terms of him having sole control over the money, I did not believe that. Velvet also had an interview with Real Life Productions where she chronicled her journey through the cult. And she said, yes, indeed, there was a lot of sexual activity and there was transmission of diseases because she contracted at least three or four and she don't know who gave it to her. Well, obviously, she was having sex with her husband, NatureBoy, who was having sex with many other people. So these diseases were passed on from person to person. So, in terms of people wondering if the rumor is correct about sexually transmitted diseases, yes, that rumor is correct. She also talked about her escaping several times and coming back. He would talk her into coming back. And then she said 2 or 3 weeks after coming back, the abuse would start all over again. He would start beating her again. He would start with the mental abuse, the mind manipulation. And this happened a couple of times, she said. And for the life of me, I don't understand. If you escape your abuser, why are you going to come back to that same situation time and time again? It's like hitting your head on a wall. You know what the outcome is going to be, but you keep doing it. You just keep doing it. So I think she was probably looking for something she couldn't find anywhere else. That daddy figure as well, because he was way older than her. She said she was around 21, 22, and he was already in his 30s, well into his 30s. So she was looking, I think, for a father figure and structure. And she had nothing going for her because she had failed college and she upped and she went there in the jungle. But I was surprised when she chronicled all the STDs she's had. She had, I believe she said chlamydia. She had a number of other diseases. She also said all her partners, she would let them know what type of diseases she contracted in the past. And so one of the diseases she has had, she said, is herpes. And with herpes, there is outbreaks. You don't know when it's coming on. So by the time you know it's there, and if you're sexually active, your partner is going to contract it. I think that's the responsible thing for her to do, to let her partners know what type of diseases she has contracted in the past. And some of those diseases, for instance, like herpes, is recurring. So Google had some information about herpes. Herpes is caused by herpes simplex virus. There's type 1 and type 2. The type 1 causes the oral herpes, which is commonly known as cold sores. Incidentally, guys, if someone have cold sores and you kiss them, you are going to get it, because remember, it's lesions in that person's mouth or on that person's lip. And those blisters have the virus. So if you kiss that person, that virus will be transmitted to you orally. So you will come down with oral herpes or cold sores. Now, the type 2 is the sexually transmitted infection, which shows up on the genitals because it's sexually transmitted. When you're having intercourse with someone, you may give it to them. So herpes is a very, very common as well as highly transmittable. Catching it from person to person. It's highly transmittable. Once that herpes virus gets into your system, into your body, the virus goes into hiding and stays in the body for the rest of your life. And what it does is emerges from time to time. Like if you're under the weather, maybe you're sick, maybe you have a cold, maybe you're stressed, whatever the reason, but your immune system is compromised in some type of way, that virus may emerge. And we see it emerging all the time during the cold season. People get cold sores, or the elderly population may get shingles. So it's for life. This virus stays in your body for life. So I thought the responsible thing for Velvet to do was to disclose to all her partners what type of diseases she has contracted in the past. So kudos to her on that. But as she was sitting on that blue couch, I could not help but notice how much her daughter looks like her father, the Julius child. She's a splitting image of her father. So I'm hoping, because they hate him so much, I'm hoping that they do not take it out on that little girl. Because what I notice is that Velvet, this is all alleged, she does not seem attached to this little girl as much as she is to the other one, the lighter one. The darker one is a Julius child. But I did not see her connecting to that child at all on that couch. She was showing the other child a lot of nurturing, but not a Julius child. And Velvet herself might not even be aware of it. So Velvet also talked about this fella by the name of Omac. And she said Omac was the person that she fell in love with when she got there. They were closer in age, and they got together, and they were together for about a good year, give and take a couple of months. I think she said 8 months, but 8 months a year. And she said Nature Boy became kind of jealous of that relationship and wanted to get with her. Well, my thing is, it takes two, right? If Nature Boy wanted to get with her, it was up to her to say no. No way, I got a man. But some of the ex-members said that was a lie. They said what actually happened was Velvet was not telling the truth, that she was lying when she said Omac left. Because what indeed happened was Velvet and Nature Boy, along with the other members, cult members, packed up and left Omac in a hotel by himself, stranded. He was stranded without any money. So that part of her interview with Real Life Productions was fabricated. It was a lie. Allegedly. It was not honest. That's what some of the ex-members said. So essentially what Velvet did, she abandoned Omac. She left him for Nature Boy and left him behind, and they left and went to another country. Allegedly. But like I said before, those who are telling the story will make themselves out to look good. So we don't know really the complete role that Velvet played in Allegio's madness. Because for anybody to say that they left several times and went back several times, it's a red flag to me that they like being in that, maybe in that position. They didn't like the abuse, but they liked the power because she was over all the other women. She was the number one woman in that group. So my thinking is maybe she went back because of the power that he gave her over all these other women. You guys know power can be intoxicating. People can be drunk with power. But the way she spent it in that interview, she said that he manipulated her to come back. But how many times is a person going to manipulate you to come back? And you're supposed to be so intelligent. So you say. But here again, I have to pull back a little bit and remind myself she was only 21, 22 when he was around 38. So when you talk about a master manipulator and you have a young 21, 22 naive person thinking they're all that intelligent, you can pretty much pull the wool over their eye and kind of get into their head and brainwash them into certain things and to convince them to come back several times that you have changed. And we know this to be true even if you're not in a cult and you have an abusive husband or wife. And they tell you they've changed, but when you come back, it's the same thing. In fact, they haven't changed at all. All they wanted you to do was to come back to prove a point that they can get you back anytime they want to. So this guy, Eligio, just went to jail last year. So it's still fresh. This story is still relatively fresh in the minds of a lot of people who were a part of this Carbon Nation, whose family members were a part of it. There are a lot of mothers and fathers who were trying to get their young adult back home because they saw that it was a cult and the cult was really no good. A little sidebar, some people want to be a part of a cult. We're all different as human beings. We're not all going to think alike. So some people want to be a part of that type of group or activity. It's kind of hard to believe and it's kind of hard to really phantom, but a lot of people like that type of cult-like activity and life. They don't care if it's a cult. They just want to be part of something that's different and something that is not part of the system, the whole government and the structure of how we're living. They want to be a part of something that's totally different. They want to be back to nature. And most of these cults have to do with nature, and they want to be a part of nature, so they join these groups, knowing that it's a cult. Because even as Velvet was chronicling her experience, she kept saying the cult, the cult. So she was well aware it was a cult. So this is a little reminder for those who don't know why Virgilio is in jail. NatureBoy or Bishop, sometimes they called him Bishop. So when he was arrested, they were living in Georgia, in a house in Georgia. So when he got arrested, the charges were rape, false imprisonment, and 3 counts of nude or sexually explicit electronic transmission, which was prohibited. So the abuse was really horrendous. And when I heard Solar said he was thinking of bailing him out, he had the bond money, but because he disrespected him, that's why he didn't bail him out. I said, okay, this guy, Solar, is still in the same frame of mind. And this was only months ago because he went in last year and he was going to bond him out last year. And so this is all, to me, if NatureBoy did not go to jail, Solar would have still been in his camp. I also think Velvet would have still been there because Velvet, in her own admission, her own words, she said she kept going back and forth. She left several times and she went back. So who is to say if she would not have left again and go back again? So in my mind, she still would have been there with him. But what I saw, I don't know if I'm correct in my assessment, but this was what I observed. When Velvet was sitting on that couch, how she was cuddling the other child and not Agilio's child. And the other child, who is Agilio's child, she pretty much did not nurture her in any way. She did not hug her. She did not show affection. She just sat her next to Solar, and she was hugging the other child and cradling and cuddling and kind of nurturing. But that type of level of attention was not given to Julia's child. And that child, you can see her face. There was, I don't know if I can say sadness, but it was so blank, as if she's not used to being nurtured, if you know what I mean. So as she put the child down, who she was nurturing all this while, I said, okay, this is a good opportunity for her to now take turns and nurture the other child, Julia's child. But she didn't do so. She put down the other child and she put her arms around the couch, completely ignoring Julia's child, who just stared ahead in a blank stare, as if she's used to this. I got this. I'm used to this. No problem. I'm not hurt nor bothered. That was the stare she was doing. So I'm hoping she's not being abused in any way. I'm not saying they're abusing her. I'm just saying I hope it's not happening, because they hate Agilia so much that I hope they're not taking it out on the child. But I honestly don't even think Velvet knows that she treats this child that way. I don't think she's consciously doing it. I think she's not even aware she's doing it. She's been through such a horrifying experience with Agilio that she has distanced herself subconsciously from Agilia's child. In my opinion, that's what I saw when I looked at the interaction between her and the two children. So Nature Boy was really far gone. He was out there as far as cults go. He was so delusional that he referred to himself as God. And one of their beliefs, one of their tenors of the beliefs in this organization was they believed in nudity, polygamy, refraining from bathing at times. Now, the refraining from bathing at times I didn't quite get. Why would you not bathe when you know there are parts of the human body? If you don't even clean it for a day, it starts smelling. It has to be cleaned properly. They were in Airbnbs where they can take showers. They were by the sea where they can take a dip in the ocean. There was no excuse for not taking a bath. Not with all that sexual activity going on. It got to be so bad, the smell, that they got on a plane to hightail out of one of those countries coming back to America, and they couldn't even get on the plane because they were stinking so much. Along with not taking the regular baths and the STDs, you can imagine the stench that was coming off of these people at times when they weren't bathing. But I would like to think only a few were like that. Only a few people did not want to take a bath, and it was perfectly okay by the leader. I would think most of them, especially the women, would take baths. It may not be true, but this is what I want to believe. When you're in a cult, you don't have respect for law and law enforcement, because that's a part of the system you don't want to be a part of. That's the system you're running from. That's why you went to live in the jungle. Part-time living in the jungle, that is. And I guess a lack of respect for law and the laws of the land, because when they went to Hawaii, that was the height of the COVID outbreak and everybody was quarantined. When they landed in Hawaii, they did not even stay in the Airbnb that they rented. They were out on the beach. They were seen and found at the beach playing with turtles. They were supposed to stay in that Airbnb for at least 2 weeks. And when quarantine was over, then they emerged. But they didn't do that. They went on the beach and they were found on the beach playing with turtles. And so they got kicked out of Hawaii for breaking the quarantine. So Velvet talked about he had her passport, all her IDs, everything. And that was not uncommon, because this was part of his rules, that you handed over your bank PIN, all your money, all your IDs, your passport, as well as any type of income you have coming in, whether it's Social Security, military, checks coming in, whatever the source of your money, your income, you have to hand it over to him. All your credit cards. Now you tell me if that was not enough to wake you up. I don't know what will wake you up. What does that sound like to you guys? When someone tells you you have to give them all your money, your passport, your ID, everything. It sounds like pimp, right? Sounds like a pimp. Like he was pimping everybody. And at the time, he was 38 years old. Velvet also said that he had a lover. He had a guy who used to give him money, send him money, a rich guy, send him money, and then from time to time he would have sex with this guy. And one time she saw him, walked away from her, and she was looking out of her side vision, and she saw him take his penis out and put it towards the phone. In other words, to show the guy his penis. And when she confronted him, he gave some type of flimsy excuse. But then she said from there on in, he wanted her to be friendly and befriend the guy. So she obliged and she was friendly with the guy, knowing that they are lovers. So she turned a blind eye to a lot of things. So as she was telling her story, I was thinking, you're not telling everything, my dear. You're holding back. Just like Solar, I had that same feeling. He wasn't telling everything either. Because these people knew what Nature Boy was all about, but they just wanted to be part of that nasty life where they were having sex with everybody. It was free for all. They can, pick and choose and just live naked in nature and lawlessness and just sex. This is why people were calling it a sex cult, because there was a lot of sex and swapping of partners and, I do you, you do me. And if we want to go with this person, we go with, and then Nature Boy would be screwing everybody and, just nastiness. And everybody getting each other's diseases. According to Velvet, Nature Boy was sleeping with just about everybody and she got these diseases and don't know how she got them. Well, I know how she got him. She was sleeping with Nature Boy who was sleeping with everybody. So that's how she got him. Hello. And the reason why they were traveling from country to country wasn't because they have had a love of traveling and oh my goodness, I always wanted to go here, there, and everywhere and let me go just see the world and travel. No, it was because they were kicked out. They were deemed a national threat. And so Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Panama, as well as Hawaii kicked them out for being a threat to national security. So some people really, 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 really believed in him because some of the members said that there were people there who denounced their own families, would not talk to their own families, left their families because they believed in Agilio. So the human spirit is always looking for righteousness, salvation, God. We're always searching. But unfortunately, we have these false prophets who pop up every so often to send and to transmit their false doctrines. I'm not denouncing people for joining any group for because they want to seek God, because a lot of people don't have a good frame of reference of what is true or what is false, and so they will pick up a false prophet and not see the person is false. So I'm not faulting them because they don't know any better. I'm faulting the person who is the false prophet because they know better. In this case, Agilio, he knows and knew he was a false god, a false prophet. Because anytime you take out your penis and you showing a man just so the man can send you money, you're prostituting yourself. What kind of God are you? But Velvet knew this because she caught him in the act, but yet she chose to stay there. So what does that tell you? Velvet is coming off now like the victim, when really, if she would tell the truth, a lot of times she left probably because she was jealous that he was having sex with so many women and not putting her first. I think that's the real reason why she kept leaving and coming back. But I don't know if you guys notice that everybody who is in this carbon nation or was in carbon nation, I don't know how they're classifying themselves now, but they all seems to be into some type of music. And that's because Agilio Bishop Nature Boy, whatever you want to call him, he was into music also, and he was putting out music videos and tapes. And so I think they all kind of learned that from him. Some people like Solar was already into the music industry before he left California to go hook up in Nature Boy and his group. He was already into music, but I think some of the others were not. But now they're into this music gig. So Nature Boy's previous occupations were he modeled, he was a stripper, he was a prostitute. I don't think he stopped doing prostitution. I think he was prostituting when he had his little cult going because he was taking money for um, exchange of sex, according to Velvet. And he also was a barber and a porn star. So I would clearly say from all this sexual activity he was going on with, he probably is addicted to sex and maybe needed some therapy. So originally, this group was named Melon Nation before they became Carbon Nation. And now we're seeing a resurgence of the group, and now the name is Carbon Island. So they're constantly rebranding themselves. So Nature Boy had a past brushing with the law back in 2009 in Georgia. He was arrested for forcible entry and theft. And back in 2011, he was arrested for aggravated battery. So, Nature Boy or Carbon Nation, Carbon Island, Melanated, Carbon, all these names, they're not going to be the last, nor were they the first to emerge as a cult. There's going to be more. You just got to recognize when false prophets come along. YouTubers, I'm over now. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel and to this video. Thank you for watching.